Alright, I'm going to try this one more time. I'm going to see how smoothly this goes. It's still sending data to YouTube. Okay, now we're streaming on YouTube. And I will go to the stream manager here. I would like to kind of see what it looks and sounds like on YouTube as well. So far, I'm not seeing anything over on Twitch. It says this content is no longer available. I'll look at it on YouTube here. View channel. Currently live. All right. Okay, I'll turn the audio down there. There's no way to just mute. It's very strange. Okay, so I can at least see what I'm doing there. It's not very smooth. Twitch app, I'm going to just kill and try and bring it back up. Let's see if it knows that I am live. Switching to creator mode. Stream manager. Okay, it's bringing up an image there. It's still pretty laggy. I'm not getting any warnings about encoding errors, but I can see it's super laggy. So we'll give it a shot. We'll see how this goes. All right, so now you should be seeing my screen, and hopefully the audio is still smooth. Here's the audio on YouTube. Hopefully the audio is still smooth. Here's the audio on YouTube. Audio on YouTube sounds great. Let's see if we can get the audio going on the Twitch stream here. Audio on YouTube sounds great. Let's see if we can get the audio going on the Twitch stream here. Okay, seems like audio going to Twitch is okay. So maybe this will work a little bit. All right, let's give it a shot and see. I don't have the view on Twitch that I want. Twitch is so weird. The Twitch app is so strange because it has this view. It has like the stream manager. So if I can pull it up over here. It has this stream manager, you know, where you can see the stream and like you can see the chat or whatever. But it doesn't show you how many people are on. If you tap it, it'll tell you how long you've been running and how many viewers and how many followers or whatever, and then it goes away. Like, why doesn't that stay up? I want that to stay up. I want to see that all the time. There's 3 dots there. What does that allow me to do? Auto, 720 source, audio only, play in background. Yeah, I don't want to do any of those things. So, and none of these other views are what I want. But if I don't have Twitch open, right when I start the stream, I'll get a notification that I can manage the stream, you know, in the app. And so I will open it in the app, and it's not this. It's some other view, and it shows me always how many people are on. It shows like a little thumbnail of the video. It shows the chat, and it shows my followers. Like, it's a better looking screen, and there's no way to get to that here. I don't know how to get to that other than from that notification. There's no other, like, I don't know. Stream summary, that's not it. It's super frustrating because, you know, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to go to, and I don't have any ability to do that. I just get this stream manager, which is not what I want at all. So I don't know why I get that other one sometimes and I get this one. This is the only one I can get to manually. It's the other one. The other one is the one that I want. Anyway, nobody asked me. I would have told them what I wanted if they'd asked. But they didn't. Okay, so let's do some color grading. Since you're not here to listen to me complain. And we'll push the door to over here. Just kind of cut out the light from the rest of the house. And then we're going to go into Resolve lighting mode, which on my end is actually very, very dim and dark. But this new webcam that I've got here really likes the low light for some reason and does pretty good in the low light. It looks like my face is all brightly lit up, but it just really is not currently. So... Alright, I'm still not getting any encoding error notifications. It's still super laggy, but at least it's... I think the audio is going through pretty smoothly. That's all you really need for what we're doing. So let's see how this goes. Alright, what I am attempting to do here is color correcting scenes, and then we'll do maybe some light color grading. And we did this. Let's go to the group pre-clip. We're doing our color balancing in the group pre-clip so that we can group a whole bunch of clips at once. And then we'll go into each individual clip and we'll make some different adjustments for each individual clip. I'm not doing individual clips at this point. I'm just wanting to do sort of whole groups. So let's see if we can find a group that we haven't balanced yet. I think maybe this indoor, I think this is where we stopped last time. I've not balanced this indoor bedroom stuff. So let me turn off the balancing that we've done, like this. Okay, so the balancing that we've done is actually, not bad, but I would kind of like to redo it specifically for these clips. Let's go to the group post clip and look at, we've got some grading stuff here. Yeah, got some grading stuff that has been done in the other... This is because this was pasted from another group. So, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? No, I'm just going to turn these off. I'm just going to disable those for right now. And I'm going to go to my timeline, and I'm going to turn some of these things off too. Turn these three off, and we're going to disable this also. Okay, so I've turned off my print film grain. I have turned off my print film LUT. I've turned off my sharpening and my halation. Basically everything going on in the timeline I've just turned off. The group post clip, I've turned off the nodes that had some work done on them because they were pasted from something else, and I don't want that just yet. I may end up using it, but or maybe a good starting point. But I'm turning it off right now because right now all I'm doing is balancing, and I'm doing all of that in the group pre-clip section here. These things I'm going to not reset because again they might be a good starting point. So I'm just going to disable them. We're going to start with this luminance and see if that's what we want. I'm going to turn the negative grain off there. I'm going to go to my clip and just make sure that this is good to go. I'm just going to go ahead and reset that default node there because I've got a whole batch of I think I've got a fixed node tree for the actual clip. Like right here maybe. Let's display this node graph. This window is always such a bad default starting point. No, don't do that. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to make this window bigger. There we go. And I'm going to zoom out. Second, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to append the color grade, append node graph, and then we're going to delete no icons. That means there's nothing on this node. This node isn't doing anything yet. So there's no need to turn all those off, but this is just set up for the work that I will do on a per clip basis. Will be here. Sequoia, is that, I don't know what that is. Is that Mac? Is that the new Mac OS? Yeah, yeah. So I am still on. Let me go back over here. Sorry, I had to pull up my chat window so I could read the chat. I am still on Ventura. I'm still on Ventura. I didn't update. I never Sonoma. I just completely skipped over Sonoma because because in Logic, I have plugins that if I update to Sonoma, I've got to update my plugins, and it's like $500 to update my plugins to have them do the same thing they're doing now. So it sucks because I probably would have liked a lot of the things in Sonoma. And you know how with each OS update, there's like little doohickeys and add-ons and little fun feature things that like is just sort of incremental with each release. I missed all the ones from Sonoma, so I'm going to get into Sequoia when I'm finally able to do that, because I still can't upgrade it until this movie's done unless I want to pay for all these. At some point I may have to, but right now I don't want to and I don't have $500 to just throw away basically. So yeah, and this is actually pretty common. When you have a machine and everything's working on it and all your plugins are working, just don't touch it. The security updates or whatever, but like otherwise, like nothing big. Don't update if your software is working. Don't update it. I've had it break. Definitely don't update it in the middle of a project. I am using Davinci 19. Yeah, it's working on Ventura. Yep, it's working okay. So this is the latest release of 19. And but the thing is, so like I've also got. Let me find where. So I've got DaVinci 19 and even Logic, because Logic came out with Logic 11. Well, my plugins won't work in Logic 11, but Logic 11 had some AI stuff that I wanted to use because I had some songs that my cousin recorded, and but he was singing over them. I was like, oh, I really need an instrumental version of this. Well, Logic 11 has a built-in thing where you strip the vocals out, and it's actually really nicely done. So what I did was I renamed. So if I go down here to Logic, I know that this is kind of hard to see, but I'll zoom in a little bit here. So I renamed the Logic that I had to the version that was working, 10.8.1. Yeah, just renamed because when the App Store is going, so I duplicated it basically. I duplicated it and then and named the copy. It'll say Logic Pro copy, and you just change it to the whatever you want. And I also zipped it just to protect it, but the App Store is only going to update the one called Logic Pro. And so this one, if you go over here and look at the version information or whatever, it says version 10.8.1. And if you go to the one that says Logic Pro and go over here and look, it says version 11.0.1. So it's even had a 0.01 update since I updated it. And so when I open Logic, I just got to make sure I'm opening the right one. If I need the AI tools or whatever, I'll do Logic Pro, which is whatever the latest version is. But if I'm working on my movie, I got to go to 10.8.1 because none of my plugins are guaranteed to work. In fact, some of them are guaranteed not to work in 11. So yeah, it's like not upgrading those plugins has kept me from upgrading a lot of this other stuff. But it's probably a good thing because sometimes those upgrades, you think it's going to get better, and all of a sudden it breaks a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I don't know about downgrading. Downgrading is harder, but I'm not going to pretend to know for sure about that. I mean, I think at worst case scenario, you could completely wipe your system and install whatever you wanted on it, as long as that operating system worked with, whatever machine you have. It's a pain to do that, but the thing is, do you have software that won't run on, that'll only run on Sonoma, or like with Final Cut, like if you update Final Cut and then open your library, it has to update the library to work with the new version of Final Cut, and then it's no longer backwards compatible. Same thing with the Logic projects. If I open my movie in 11, it would no longer open in 10.8.1 because it just wouldn't be compatible with it anymore. And Resolve is the same thing. I had to back up before I upgraded to 19. I not only did I do the same thing with the app that I did here with Logic Pro. I've got Davinci 18 stored off somewhere. But I also had to back up my project because if 19 didn't work, under Ventura on my MacBook Air M1, it's 4 years old or whatever at this point, then I would need to revert. And if I'd already opened my project and made it a version 19 project, it wouldn't open in 18 anymore. So I had to back up my project as well. So updating for normies is no big deal, especially on a Mac. But updating for a professional is it's a nightmare because there's so many factors at play, and I can almost never update the OS on release day because even though the betas and stuff have been out, still major companies like Adobe will say on release day, don't update if you want to use After Effects because it doesn't work yet. It's like, come on, guys, you had like 6 months or whatever since 3 months since WWDC to do this, and I know that Adobe knew about it before then because they're presenting at WWDC. So anyway, long story longer. Enjoy Sequoia and Sonoma. I don't even know if I'll get Sequoia on this thing because we're hoping for like a spring release date, and by the time I get everything done, the next operating system it'll be WWDC again by the time we get this thing out. So, all right. So going back to this, so I've turned off my timeline. I've turned off my group post clip, and I have got nothing, a bunch of empty, node tree on my actual clip. Now I'm going to the group pre-clip. So once again, the groups allow you to take a whole bunch of clips and do a bunch of stuff to them at once. And I love how they've done the group where you've got group pre-clip and group post-clip. And so the way I have everything laid out is my timeline affects my whole movie, like sort of like the film print kind of thing. I'm using the group post-clip for my creative grade. I'm using my group pre-clip for my color correction, color balancing, and then I'm using the individual clip just to correct individual clips inside those groups that don't quite fit in with the overall color correction or color grade. So let's start balancing. So I need to pick a shot that's sort of representative of everything that's going to be in this group of clips. These are all interior bedroom, morning, day clips. She goes from the bathroom and then to the wall over here. So I feel like this is probably a good shot because it encompasses everything that we're going to see in any of the smaller shots in this scene. So it does pan. It's not like a big wide shot necessarily, but at least I can kind of go back and forth as I'm color balancing here and see that everything plays. So what I'm trying to balance to is I'm trying to use my scopes. Let me pop those out so you can see the scopes there. Let me move I gotta move some things around so you can see. Take this straight up. There we go. All right. So what I want is, you can see how red, green, and blue are separated in this waveform. And what we're looking at here on the left, this is left to right. This is left to right in the image. So this right here is the wall. And you can see as I move my cursor over the wall, you can see the circles in the scopes showing us exactly where that color is in the waveform. And you see it separated out into red, green, and blue. And you see the colors are wildly separated because look at the wall. It's basically yellow, orange. And so you would have a lot of red, a little less green, almost no blue in order to get a yellow-orange kind of color. So that's to be expected. This stuff here should be more white, and now you see the circles are closer together, and they're also higher up in the waveform because this is a brighter thing. So they're not perfect. The circles are not perfectly synchronized, but they're really close. So the goal here then is to find something in the scene that would be white or mid-gray or black, and then get your color balance and everything to line up. Right now we're just looking at Luma. So what I'm seeing by looking at Luma is that I've got a bunch of stuff at the bottom that is crushing off at the bottom, and I have not enough stuff kissing the top line. So I'm going to be moving everything sort of in that direction, and I'm going to be doing that using my primaries and just starting with my primary wheels, and might be able to accomplish all of it with my primary wheels. So I'm using the Blackmagic Micro Color Palette or Micro Color Panel, and so I'm able to use the wheels and the rings on that to accomplish what I'm trying to do. So first I'm going to start with lift, and I'm going to pull my lift up until all that stuff on the bottom starts to come off the bottom. And just let it kiss the bottom right there. That's pretty good. And now I'm going to take my gain, and I want the stuff on the top to start kissing that top line of the gain. And it's trying, it's getting there, it's getting close. A little more. Okay. Now, this has made my image look, this is not what I want. So now I'm going to take the middle, I'm going to pull everything, I'm going to pull the middle back down. So I want the top to stay up, but I don't want it to stretch everything from the bottom too much. So I'm just going to kind of go back and forth with my gain and gamma. Gain being bringing my top up, and gamma bringing the middle back down. Oh, and I need to make sure that this pivot is correct, and it is not. This should be 0.414. I thought the pivot on these was all correct. It isn't. It is not. That's not good. Because I just copied and pasted it to a whole bunch of stuff. It's most important that it's set there on the contrast node, which it is, so that's good. Uh-oh, what happened? Why did that happen? Dadgummit. It's okay, no problem. We'll just go right back, it's right here. It's okay. Don't worry, I know what we were doing. Pivot 0.414. There we go. Okay. Maybe this one too. Actually, no, I'll leave that one alone. Okay. So going back, taking the gain up and bringing the gamma down. Bring that lift back up a little more. Okay, and I can disable this node and look at my original. And turn it back on. I can also just hit bypass and look at the original video file, which basically is the same as hitting disable at this point because I only have one active node. And already I can see her face more. All right. I feel like I'm losing a lot of definition here, right in here. So I'm going to bring that gamma back down just a little. Okay, that helped a little. I think also probably contrast is going to help with this, but maybe another thing I can do is go to my log wheels, and let's see if I can remember how to do that. I think it's shift up offset. Takes me to the log wheels. Yes, perfect. There we go. So now on my log wheels I have shadow, midtone, highlights, and also a global offset. And shadow, midtone, highlights, these are sort of limited to those areas. So that way I can adjust the top end without adjusting the middle or the bottom. So I'm going to pull the top up and we'll pull the bottom down just a little. And now I'm going to move my gamma. Okay, kind of like that. So let's disable this whole node. This looks pretty good. I like it. I guess first thing I should have done was made sure that I had my camera raw settings where I want them, but I think I did that already. I kind of went through the whole movie and did that. I do kind of like how all of this looks here. That looks really nice. Let's go back to the bathroom. This is looking good. Her hair is not blowing out, So this is really good. So now's a good time to go through and look at other shots in the scene and see, is this working for other shots in the scene? And so far, that looks really good. Shot at the end is very similar in what it covers, but it's from a different angle. Again, I feel like I'm losing some information here, but I think we're going to get that when we get to the contrast section and the color balance section. I think that all is looking good. Let's look at the over the shoulder here. This is all looking good. Let's look at the bathroom shots. think this is the best this bathroom shot has ever looked. A little hot on her hair there. So I'm going to bring... Oh, wait, I'm still in log mode. So let me undo what I just did. And let me go back to my primaries. And let me go back to primary mode. And I'm going to bring my gain down just a little. Because I don't want to... I'm just losing a lot in the hair there. Again, I think contrast will probably help with that. So let's see if that helped with the lampshade at all. A little, yeah, a little. A little. All right, let's stay here. I kind of like this shot. This is a good place to start. It is. I haven't done any color correction yet. I'm just doing Luma at this point. So I'm looking at my highlights, and I'm looking at my bottom, and I'm looking at the middle, and I'm just kind of getting it where I want it. I am going to want it to be a little warm because she's got this orangish indoor light as compared to the bluish sunlight and that sort of thing. But we're about to do that next. So we're going to do color balance here. So let me turn this node on. And this is color balance that I've already done from a similar scene, but not the same scene. So the trick here is sort of finding something that would be white or gray or black to be able to do the color balancing on. And it's so hard in a scene like this where you have sort of bluish sunlight and this warmish, yellow-orange indoor light going on at the same time. Honestly, this over here might be the only place, and you can see it's peeking off the top of the waveform there. Anyway, it's blowing out. So let's see if we can find something in here that we would say that should be white. Because like even this door, which in real life is a white door, in this scene is lit by warm indoor light. And so I don't want to make it white. It's going to take all the color out that we worked hard on set to get the color that we wanted, So I can't really use that as a reference. I don't want to make it white. Maybe I don't want it that orange, but I don't want it white. So that's pretty much it for that shot. Let's see. Let's go back to the first shot that we were looking at here. Again, I just think the blinds probably being a little bluish are probably what we want. Yeah, maybe, but again, even the books in the background are lit by this warm light, which, we have this practical light, but also off camera are flat panels that are turned very warm, so they sort of mimic that light. And so these books are all, lit up by that. So I'm going to look at this, at the blinds here, because that's going to be the closest thing to something white, that we would have. And I'm looking at the circles over there, and they're pretty close on, but there is quite a bit of red up top, which tracks by looking at the rest of the image, that the whole image has probably a little too much red in it, maybe needs some more blue overall. So the blue and green are very close, the blue just slightly above the green, and then the red is kind of over the top of all of them. And you can see also down here in the bottom, as we get into what should be a green wall, or is this the side? Oh, this is the side of the bookcase, I guess. The side of the bookcase, which would be, I guess, like this walnut kind of, is just sort of reading, red and then green and then blue. I guess that's kind of what that would be. But let's see if we can just maybe bring down some of the red overall. So I'm in my primaries, and I'm going to use my color wheel to go away from red. So I'm going to be going down towards cyan, which is going to lift the blue and the green. There we go. Taking some of the red out of the top. Already this is starting to look more balanced. All right. Like even her skin already looks better. It doesn't look quite as saturated. That's actually kind of helped our issue in the top of this lampshade even a little bit. Let's I don't know what else to do. Let's try this. This should be kind of gray here. A little blue is to be expected. Green and red are kind of right on. So I need to find something kind of in the middle. Maybe this right here. Definitely should not have that much red, I think. So let me take the middle towards cyan a little. I don't want to go too far, but I do want to take out just a little bit of the red. I think that helps. So again, I can disable this node. There's the original, and here's the work that we've done. I think that's better. Again, her skin tones are looking more natural. Let's kind of click around through the image here. So she starts in the bathroom. That's looking really good. She walks by here in the shade. That wall is kind of a pea green kind of color. So it looks like maybe I need to take some of the red out of the bottom end too. So I'll take some of the bottom towards cyan just a little. Just a little. So we're just kind of taking red out overall throughout the whole shot. That's helped a lot. All right, let's just look at some of the other shots here. Oh, here's a good... well, this would be... The problem is, again, this would be warm. Even though this bottle is white, it would be warm because it's under this yellow light here. So it's actually... this is actually looking kind of like what you would expect under those conditions, I guess. Maybe a little too green even. Might need to bring some more of that red back. Just a little bit. A little bit of red in the middle, a little bit of red in the bottom. There's the original, so it's not as red as it was. And I do like the red, and I do like the warm, and so I have a tendency to kind of overdo that. This shot's looking a lot better balance-wise. You know. Again, even right here, this is very red. So I'm gonna take the red back out of the bottom. I think I should have left that where it was. It's looking a little more responsible. I'm going to add a little bit of blue into the top end, not too much, but just a little. And bring that blue up on the top some. I feel like this is a little too greeny on the top end. I'm going to put just a little red back in the top end, just a little bit. So yeah, it's tough when you don't have, you know, something gray, something black. I guess maybe we use the phone a little bit. It's like this should be basically black. And it looks like the biggest, I don't know, it's kind of all over the place. It's too much red and not enough blue. So let's take this towards blue, cyan, a little more on the bottom end there. It's a little better. You can kind of watch the waveforms move as I move this ball. That over there should be pretty strongly blue, maybe not quite as green. So this is in the middle. Let's take it away from green a little, go towards magenta just a bit. So it's more true blue. Skin tone should be orange. Yep. And the iPhone screen is going to be, you know, color temperature blue. So this should not be white. This should be blue. That's what we're seeing. It's kind of blue-green. So if anything, might need to take some green out, which would be adding red back. But I think that I kind of like the look. I think it's looking okay. All right, so let's go back to our wide shot and kind of check that. And okay, it's definitely more balanced, but then now it's too green. So I'm going to put some of that red back that I just took out. Primarily in the mids, a little bit in the bottom end. All right, so we'll disable that. So that's our original. And, you know, when I'm done with it, it's going to look, you know, I don't know, kind of like this. Not quite that red, but I don't want it to be this green either, this blue-green. So I'm just kind of going towards a warm, I guess I just need to be going more towards magenta than anything. Oh, that's looking nice. I used to do this back in the video days. I would white balance with a piece of like 1/4 or 1/8 plus screen over my lens. I would white balance, and that would make everything a little bit magenta, and it was kind of like using an enhancing filter. And I've always liked that look. Okay, but this is good for balance. So now let's go to our contrast node. Let's turn it on, and let's work on some of this contrast stuff. Particularly, this is a good one to look at, because what I want to make sure is that I'm not getting into a crushy space here. I'm already kind of losing the detail on the side of this bookshelf, which I don't care about that so much, but I don't want to get crushy on her face or her hair or anything here, because she's so far down towards the bottom. But right here, I don't want her face to be too dark, but I don't want to bring it up to the point that I'm losing detail here. So first of all, we're going to play around with the contrast, and I'm actually going to reduce contrast. We're going to get the contrast bumped up a little bit in this node. I've got my pivot point set correctly, so I'm going to reduce contrast, and I'm going to reduce it a lot and see where it goes. So I can always add contrast back on the grading end. I don't want to reduce it too much, but like reducing it some definitely looks pretty good. And I'm honestly not above doing a little curve work here just to get this part right here. So I'm going to, with my curves window active down here, I'm going to ungang them, so I'm only doing Luma on this, and then I'm just going to click right here, and that's going to give me a range sort of where that is on these curves. And so now I can move, and I'm going to hold down on my keyboard Shift and tap once, then I'm going to hold down Shift here and tap so that I don't really move anything else. In fact, I'm going to come a little closer with that maybe and do that there. And so this is the one that I'm moving, and I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Yeah. And I'm going to move this up just a hair also, so we get a little better roll off. And then I'm going to move this, I'm going to go up here and maybe Shift tap here. Oh, undo. Shift and tap. It's not supposed to move anything when I hit Shift, so I don't know why it is. It's a little better. Now I can move this up. Whoa! So you see the histogram drop is because I'm starting to kind of crush things out a little bit. All right, so if I disable that node, so this is my change in contrast. I think that's much better. I think that looks a lot better. Now let's make sure that it looks better, you know, across the board. So we'll go back to coming out of the bathroom. This looks pretty good. All that looks pretty great. Let's look at these close-ups. All right, looking pretty good. It's actually maybe a little too bright, but I can deal with that on a clip-by-clip level. But man, looks pretty good. Color looks pretty good. I like how warm her face is here. I like the little highlight there. Lips are the right color. Phone looks fine. Yep. Insert looks good. I'm going to need to add back a little bit of contrast on the grade, but that's okay. Still a little green. I think I took a little too much red out, but again, I can add that back when I do the creative grade. But this is giving me a nice, sort of a nicely tuned negative to work with here. This all looks good. This all looks nice and balanced. Again, a couple things I would adjust, like the highlights in her hair on a clip-by-clip basis, but looking pretty good. Okay, so the last then is to group balance the saturation. And I think we'll go here and we'll turn this node on. And I don't know what, if anything, it's doing currently, but this is a Cinesat node, so it should be an HSV color space, and it is, and it should have channels 1 and 3 turned off, and it does. So this is HSV, hue, saturation, value, but we're only using the saturation channel. Learn this from Cullen Kelly. Only using the saturation channel. And so because we're only using the saturation channel, it's an HSV node instead of RGB. Now when I move the gain and the gamma and the lift, what I'm actually doing is I'm moving the saturation curve, and supposedly it does it in a much more natural way, much more filmic way, and simulate sort of density rather than just pure saturation. So I also have the saturation knob, which I can play around with. But what I am seeing is my top end is probably too saturated, and because I've lowered my contrast, my bottom end has probably lost some saturation. So I'm going to move my lift up. I won't go way up on the bottom. Yeah, okay. Just making sure. That's interesting how that does it on the top. Right. So I think by bringing this down, interesting. It's so hard to get my mind around like what this particular control is doing. Let me undo it. Okay. So if I am using the gamma, that adds some saturation back there in the middle. I'm going to take the gain down just a little. I'm going to take the lift up just a little. And I'm going to take the gamma back up just a smidge. So again, I can disable this node and re-enable it and see what my changes are, if anything. Man, if it's doing something, it is so stinking subtle. Can bypass and see my original footage. Okay, I see that doing something. And it's just a subtle thing, but it's enough. It's enough that I'm getting some definition back in that lampshade. I'm getting some color back in her face. It's super subtle, but I think it's okay. It's enough. So let's go back and look at, like, say, a shot like this. See, a shot like this, it's like too much, right? In fact, I'm going to take just a regular old saturation knob. Oh, it's not going to do anything on this node if I do that. So I'm going to take the gamma back down. That looks good. Let's go back and look here. It's not too bad. I feel like we took too much out of the bottom. Yeah, you see that. You can see it on the waveform now. It's spreading the bottom apart to make the saturation of the colors a A little stronger. That looks pretty good. That looks good. That looks good. Looks decent. I don't want to get too crushy and all of that there. That's actually looking pretty good, and the colors are starting to come out now. So, you know, again, the original colors here, she's wearing a dark blue thing there. The walls of the bathroom are kind of like a blue-gray. We've got the different colors of the wardrobes and all that stuff. So, like, here's the original video footage, and here's what we have now. I think it looks great. So let's turn our negative grain on. So now everything's got some grain to it. Already looking more filmic with some grain. I love the look of that grain. And let's talk creative grade. And what I care mostly about is this right here, but we need to check it with the, you know, the other stuff. So we're going to go to the group post clip, and we're going to look at what we have here. I'll bring this up so you can see it, while we also are looking at the scopes, although I don't really use scopes for this so much as I. And I'm going to turn on what has been turned off. I'm just going to re-enable these. I'm going to disable and re-enable. I gotta say, already, I think it looks pretty good. Let me go to, this wide shot here. Okay, coming out of the bathroom, looks good. Shot against the wall here is not bad. Let's look at our inserts here. Okay. Phone. Oh, that looks great. This insert here, which we haven't really looked at much. Nice. Walking away. Oh, we got one other insert here. Yep, we'll zoom in there. And then walking away. So I'm definitely going to do some secondaries on these clips that have the full window in the shot. It's because we had to expose for just sort of, you know, everything that the scene was going to see. So it's a little hot over there at the actual window. But that's so we wouldn't lose her here, you know. But everything looks good. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so now to make sure that it is going to look absolutely great, we got to turn everything back on the timeline node as well, because we won't really know what the full complete look is unless we have all the timeline stuff on too. So let me pull that up so you can see it. And we're going to get these three nodes, and we're going to enable them, and we're going to enable that node as well. Okay, so now we've got the film LUT on, which is going to kind of warm up the whole thing. That's just an aspect of the LUT that's intended. Some sharpening and some halation, so for the really super bright spots in a shot. Oh, well, like here's the opening titles. I forgot, in timeline mode, the slider works for the whole movie. It's just, I suppose that is a wanted behavior, but I always forget. So let's go back to about where that was there. Too far. Getting into a bunch of uncolor graded stuff here. There we go. Getting closer. All right. So halation would show up like around here, around this hot spot. You can see there's like a little orange edge there. In this shot, maybe her hair, it's got a little glow, just a little tiny glow to it. So now that we got that LUT on there, what do we think? Dadgummit. I keep forgetting. I'm going to go back to the group post clip. Oh, I nailed it that time. I nailed it that time. So one thing I need to do with this group is add back the contrast that I took out. And so one way I'm going to do that on this exposure temperature node is I'm actually going to mess with my primaries just a little bit. I've used the exposure and the color temperature in the HDR panel to get sort of a final look, but I feel like I need to drop the lift back down and maybe pull the gain up just a little bit, and then also work with the contrast a little. So let me find, again, a good representative shot. So I think the opening of this shot is probably a good place to work. Yeah. And I'm just going to pull my lift down so that it's getting close to sitting on the bottom again. I'm going to pull the top up so my hots are hotting. Okay. Pull my gamma down just a little. Kind of get everything about where I want it. And then I'm going to go to my contrast node. And make sure my pivot is at 414, which it is. And I'm just going to do my contrast. I'm going to up the contrast even more than it already is, to make up for everything that I took down before. So there's no change in contrast. And this is with contrast. And that's not bad. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to pull up the gamma. I took it down. I'm going to pull it back up a little. Oh, no. Too much. I like that, I think. How's that look at the end? Pretty good. How's it look in the middle here? She walks by. Oh, looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks very nice. Nice little golden glow on all the books there. See how the bathroom looks. The bathroom is where some the contrast issues were really highlighted. Getting some good hot spots on her hand there. Getting some good black in the shadows up under here. So now we've got some of that contrast back. Let's see her face. That highlight on the hair. Still got some black in the hot spots. Got some halation on some of these things here. I'm not sure if my halation settings are exactly where I want them, but definitely getting there. I think that looks a lot better contrast-wise. Oh, this looks really great. So the hair is hot but not blown out. So got the highlight in the eyes. You know, everything's nice and warm. That's okay. I want it warm. I like the warmth. Because it's intercut with, you know, with her thinking about the pill bottle there, which is deep blue. I'm not sure that that's a color grade. In fact, I'm fairly certain that it's not a color graded clip. So this is looking good. Let's look at our inserts. Ooh, that looks nice. The color on that looks really good. Looking at this from above. This looks really good. Nice and warm under the bedroom light there. Apple iPhone. Looks good. We've got some redness going on in the bottom end. So I'm actually going to go to this CineSat node. Is this an HSV node? It is. So never mind. I'm going to go to this exposure temp node. And I am going to, actually, I'm going to make this a secondary. And I'm going to hit tab to change the label here and call this second lower red and lows. Okay. And I'm going to be on my primaries. I'm just going to take some red out. Just kind of go down towards cyan just a little on the bottom end. I think some of that too is maybe the halation. But yeah, just that little nudge Made that look better. Now let's make sure that didn't screw up, you know, the rest of the movie here. Actually, looks so good. This is like one of my favorite shots. Just the skin tone on her looks good, and the little eye light, the window in the background. It's just a good close up here. Now this may not be what you would do. These may not be the choices that you would make. So I'm not here to tell you how to make choices, but I am here to tell you, I am sharing this so that you might learn how to execute the choices that you make. Because I'm learning Resolve. I'm not here as a Resolve expert. I'm here as a learner. And I kind of know what I want to see as a filmmaker, but being able to do it in Resolve and being able to use this color panel to be able to do it is a different story. But yeah, no, this looks good. I'm just thinking too, maybe I should get another one of these webcams so that you can see what I'm doing with the panels. This webcam was only like $30 and it's really good. So I think I will do that. I think I will get one. Add that to my Amazon order today. Okay. So I'm not done here. But overall, I really like the way that this looks now. I might come back to it and go, I don't like this. But like, you know, I'm going to bypass. Here's what it looked like originally. You see how dark and video-y it looks. Too red in the bottom. The saturation is all over the place. White balance is weird. And this is how it looks now. And I think it looks really great. I think it looks really good. I don't know how it's coming across on Twitch or YouTube, whatever you're watching this on. But I think that this looks pretty good. So I'm going to leave it like this for now. At some point, I got to come back into this scene and like go clip by clip and start doing things. But I don't think I want to do that right now. I think what I want to do is kind of work through clip by clip later after I get the groups kind of close to where I want them. So I'm mostly concerned with color balancing at this point, and I'm going ahead and starting on the creative grade. But I'm mostly concerned with color balancing, just still kind of getting everything balanced. So, okay, so that's good. So I want to back up a little bit and go to these scenes. This is a really weird set of scenes because we shot it like the nighttime stuff, which is like stuff like this, which is really super dark. And this stuff is not color graded yet either, but it's so different. I've decided to wait until I understand what I'm doing a little more before I come back to it. But we shot this morning stuff like that, but it's not at night. It's the next morning, you know. So like, here's how we shot it. And it already looks better just with whatever little we've done to it. But this morning stuff in particular, because she turns the light on. So it's still very early morning. This is the only light that's on in the scene now. And she turns it on in the shot. So before that, whatever we do with this group, this and this are a continuous shot. The only reason they're broken here is because there was something where, like when she turned it on, like it took a second for the light to come on or something, and basically I just cut out like 2 frames or something. And because she doesn't move, you can't tell there's a cut there at all. So that totally works. But it does mean now these are 2 separate shots, which is fine as long as we make sure the color grading on both of these is the same. And so this is probably where I need to start, because I need for this shot here and this shot here to basically look the same. Sorry, not look the same, but whatever I do to my group has to work for both of these shots, with the light on and with the light off. So we're going to start with the light on. And we're going to go to our timeline, and we're going to turn off these 3 things here. Okay. And we're going to go to our group post clip. Okay. And we're going to turn those off so we don't have any creative grading going on. We're going to look at the clip level and make sure that's reset. And actually we're going to append the node graph here. Append node graph, and then delete that empty thing there. Okay. And then we will clean up. and then select everything and then bring it up so you can see it there. I wish I could just dock my thing and have a small node up there, but Resolve is not quite that versatile. Okay, we're going to turn off the negative grade, and we're going to turn these off and just sort of tackle them one at a time. Okay. If you got any questions along the way, feel free to ask. Okay. So if I hit bypass, there's basically no change. Perfect. Okay, that's what I want. So now I'm unbypassed, and I am going to start right here with this first node in my node tree, which is a balance luma. So I'm color balancing. I'm just color correcting at this point. You can already look at it and see some of the colors are wonky, saturation is wonky, levels are kind of all over the place. So we're going to start with this node. We're going to enable this node. It's already got some stuff done to it. You see some changes that are made. And, that was not good. That's not what I wanted. That re-enabled everything. I didn't want that. I still had everything selected. Okay. Let's try this again. I just want just this one. There we go. Okay. So you saw that change some values there, and I can disable it and re-enable it. You see it's changing some values. But it may not be doing exactly what I want. Although, it's not bad. You see some red sitting on the bottom of the scopes down there. So I'm going to move our lift up until that red comes up off the bottom. If it does, maybe it won't. There we go. Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. I guess we'll just crush that out. I guess will be the answer on that. So let me just bring that back down there for just a second. My gain, I'm going to bring... Gain is like okay. There's like some stuff kissing the top there, but my gamma needs to just come way down. I'm just going to keep taking my gain up and my gamma down because I want that lamp to be, maybe not 100%, maybe not all the way at the top, but like I want the inside part of the lamp here just above her hand. Like this part needs to be kind of kissing the top, and it's we're getting there. It's pretty close. We got some color balance to do, and maybe we'll come back to this node and fix it again. But that's pretty close. But all this is a little bright here, so I'm just going to be bringing that gamma right back down. Ooh, that's starting to look good. Better anyway. Bring it up again. So gain is going up, gamma coming back down. Okay. So this is interesting. If I bypass everything, it's a little darker, contrast is a little lower. It's looking a little more filmic. That's okay. But remember, it's got to look like the previous clip needs to look okay too, right? So I'm going to go previous clip. It's okay. I feel like the mid-levels are too much. So I'm going to bring the gain down some more. I'm going to bring the gamma way down. That's a little too far. Let me bring the gain back up. Let me bring the lift down. I don't know, I'm starting to lose detail in the bottom end of things. I may have to do some secondaries on this to get some of this down. Part of the reason is that I was the cinematographer. I was in charge of the lighting. So if the lighting of the cinematography is bad, that's me. It's my own work. But that definitely looks better. Let's go back to this. Yeah, okay. I think it's a good starting point. Now let's balance some color, and then that's going to take care of some other ills. So we're on the color balance node now, and I don't see there's barely just anything done to this. We could almost reset this node if we wanted, but let's not do that. So what are we going to balance to? Well, the issue is I want this light to read warmly, and the nighttime light, like in this previous clip, is going to be very blue. So if I were to use something white, like this bottle here, then, at night, in the nighttime lighting, it's going to be very blue-green. And in the daytime lighting, it's going to be instead very warm. And, it's pretty much what we're getting. But I just am not going to have anything that's going to be like pure white or pure gray or black in this scene, really, because of the lighting is colored intentionally, and I don't want to lose that. So I guess what I need to do is use the bottle as my reference. Maybe down here where it's a little dimmer, but make sure that my colors are spread out, looking at the scopes in the way that they should be based on the lighting. So like right now, this should be a warmer lighting. My red on this bottle should be much higher, and it isn't. So I'm going to add some red into my gamma. So I'm taking my color ball towards red. Just kind of watching the scene. Okay. I'm going to take my gain towards red a little. And I'm taking my lift just a little bit towards red. Okay. So now if I disable this node, there's the original color. Here's the changes that I've made. Looks like it's just kind of saturated everything. Kind of warmed it more than anything. But I'm looking now, and I see my blue and green are almost together. My red is still very low on this. So everything's still very blue-green. I need to go more red, yellow, maybe. Let's do this. Let's go to our HDR panel. And let me warm this up a little. So I'm just going to take my color temperature and just roll this a little bit. Okay. Now let's look at that. And you see my red has come up off the ground there. Okay. Now I'm going to go to my previous clip and see what that looks like. Still very green. So I want to get rid of this green cast that is primarily... Part of this is the negative is so thin. I mean, you look at the scopes and see the red is like laying on the ground. Let me add a bunch of red into the lift. And add some red into the gamma. Add some red into the gain. I mean, it's making it more green, right? Why is it doing that? Oh, I'm in my HDR wheels. Dadgummit. I'll reset my HDR panel. Put this back at 170-ish, which is where it was. Go back to here. This is what I was trying to do. It's my color wheels. Okay. So let's add some red into my lift. As I add more red into my lift, the image gets greener. It's very surprising to me, because my goal is to take it the other direction. So let me undo that. Let me take it towards green, and it gets greener. So let me take it towards magenta. Okay. I don't know, man. Yeah, it looks better for sure. I think the biggest problem is there's just not a lot of red information. And the thing is, I don't want this to be red. Just want it to be kind of a dark blue. Yeah, see, this is way too red, right? Hey, boy. That's the thing that I have to do, is I have to kind of overdo it and then bring it back, you know. Okay. I wish that wall were not lit up behind her, but we might be able to do something about that with some power windows at the clip level. Because this looks pretty good. Let's see about the rest of this shot here. Okay. I don't hate that. Now let's go to our contrast node and we'll turn it on. That's definitely better. Just a little bit of contrast helps that, doesn't it? I wouldn't hate some more. We can add some more back in the grade. Oh, interesting. This is kind of wild here at the end. So let's go back to this balanced luma a little bit and just bring the gain down. Bring the gamma down a little. All right. Okay, I like that. And that light doesn't look so bright now. Split the difference a little maybe. That's nighttime stuff. That's a difference. Okay. This is still there's still a lot of green in this. I may have to break these clips out separate, which is going to be really tough going from this to this. Just got to be real careful with it, I guess. But this is looking good. I like everything that's happening here. This is okay. In fact, let me bring the lift up a little. Bring the gamma back up just a little, and then she turns the light on. That's okay. So my biggest problem here is that everything's just oversaturated. So now we turn on our balance sat here, turn that on, and that took care of a little bit of it, didn't it? Yeah, a little bit. Let's go back here. That's all right. I feel like my bottom mids need a little saturating. So like what happens if we go to our HDR panel and do exposure on the shadows? I'm going to just rack it real far and see if there's any change at all. It's doing something. Undo. Okay. Let me make sure that this is an HSV. It is. Okay. This should be only doing interesting. It's like moving the it's definitely moving the scale somehow, but it's sort of hard to tell in what way. Yeah. Alright, so maybe I won't use that. Let's just use the primary wheels. I've done a little bit with the curves, but let's try the primary wheels here. Add a little saturation back in the bottom. Take a little bit out of the top. Our lift gamma gain. I think that that's done what I want it to do. Ooh, that's just way too saturated. So again, if I take it way down at the top, Okay, yeah. That is what I want, so I just need to nudge it a little. Such a subtle change. Looks like I'm going to be adding, so I want to add saturation. So subtle a change. Still feel like this up here is a little too much. Let's see if we can do that with some. Just don't see that changing the scopes at all. Oh, because it's disabled. Hello. Oh. Still not changing the scopes at all. What about here? No. Okay, that's mildly infuriating. Okay, all right. I see it moving stuff now. That's less saturation for sure. Less saturation in the top end. Okay. A little more saturation in the bottom end. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. If all else fails, look at the scopes. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. Looks pretty good for these shots. Let's turn our negative grain on. Okay. It's kind of provided a little bit of a luma boost to the whole thing, which is okay. Let me just drop the lift back down a little. Drop the gamma down again just a little. Yeah, so there's our original. Yeah, nice. So this is what it looks like on video, and this is with our film grade. Already looking real nice. Go to the clip level. That's all independent for now. Let's go to the timeline and turn on all of our nodes that we have turned off. There's our film LUT. There's our sharpening. There's our halation. And here's our film print grain, which gives it a little bit of luma boost as well. We'll go back to group post clip, and now we will start looking at the creative grade for these scenes, beginning with exposure temperature. So I'll turn that on, and that'll have a little bit of work just from wherever we copied this from. We'll go to our HDR panel down here because we're using the exposure and the color temperature on the HDR panel to achieve our color and exposure looks that we want. And I am going to do some exposure things here. I'm going to turn the global exposure up just a smidge. And then let's take use of these HDR wheels here. There's actually 6, but two on the outside ends and maybe the top two at the top end don't really do anything. So, or don't do much visible with non-HDR footage. So this dark shadow light is going to do some really nice stuff. So I'm going to move it a lot and kind of see, you know, where each of these, you know, sliders, what they sort of control. So reset that. Let's look at this light and see what it does. Okay, interesting. So this is good. So I can, let me reset that also. So I can use my ring here to deal with the exposure on the lights, because I do want that to come up a little. And I want the exposure on my darks to go down a little. I want the exposure on the shadows to go down a little as well. Take our global exposure back down a little. Okay, and the big thing is, what does it look like at the end of this shot too, because we get into this bright light in the bathroom. Okay, that's not bad. So it looks like I also have, color temperature is fine. I like it, you know, nice and warm. Maybe it doesn't need to be that warm. Maybe this needs to be like 170. Maybe it would be better there. And let's go to our primaries. Let's take some red out of the top. So I'm going to go towards cyan a little. Sort of all across the board here. Okay. Let's go back. It's not bad. I'm gonna put our color temperature back, I guess, at 300. I like the warmer look. Okay, looks pretty good. Yep, I don't hate that. How's the dark stuff look? Ah, it actually looks pretty good. Like that as well. All right, let's go to the next node, and this is our contrast node. So let's turn it on and make sure our pivot's in the right place where it is. And I mean, I pretty much like what that's doing contrast-wise. Adding some contrast back. Take it up and back down. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Even on the nighttime shots, it's looking good. All right, so a little cine sat at the end here. I feel like our top end is too saturated. So on the cine sat, if I use curves and bring this down, what happens? Just nothing. I don't see anything happening. So what if I maybe have to use the green, maybe because that's the second channel? So. Oh, what if they were all ganged together? That's probably another. Okay, if they were all ganged together, it would work, because basically I need to use the green channel. Okay. Well, now we know. Okay, so what I want is sort of right in here. as good, and maybe everything above that needs to come down saturation wise. Oh, I don't want a Microsoft update. Don't do that. Yes, I want to turn off automatic updates. Just leave me alone. Just go away. Thank you. All right, so far really not able to tell much of a difference here. Basically, I'm just trying to desaturate this yellow right here just a little. Scopes are not really helping at all. Looks like if anything, I've added saturation. Okay. Just completely reset that node. Let's use green only. Forgot that by resetting this node, it also resets the color space. HSV, and then we're going to turn off channel 1 and channel 3. And so we're going to use just the green channel. Okay. Keep thinking if I can make that top of that lamppost gray. Okay, now we're starting to get to where it's gray, but everything is gray. Huh. Okay, let's reset that. Let me try lift gamma gain. Put the gain way down. Take the gamma up. All right, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with it on a clip-by-clip basis, I guess, because it's not really, it's sort of hard to operate. That's pretty good. Let's see how that blue looks. I mean, it looks pretty good. I wish that I had not done this, whatever's causing this here. I wish I had flagged that off somehow. But too late for that. I can do a little bit of that on a node at the clip level. But this is pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. We'll call that done for now, and I'll come back and I'll do all the, it's nighttime. And the daytime stuff is different, supposedly. She turns the light on. That looks good. She gets up out of the bed. Okay. Really blowing through this footage at 4 frames a second. So I'm just going to show you. What I'm dealing with here by using an M1 MacBook Air. I'm going to open Activity Monitor. An Activity Monitor is great because it has the this window that you expect where it's got all your processes and everything, but it also has, I know, go away. It also has these monitors here. So M1 MacBook Air has, or my particular one has 8 CPUs and 8 GPUs, graphics processors. So the 8 central processing units, it's actually 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. So basically what that means, and you can look at this chart and see, is that basically you've got the 4 efficiency cores are the ones that are actually like doing stuff, and the 4 performance cores basically spin up when you need some extra crunching power. So basically there's 4 cores, but you get a little boost out of these performance cores, okay? So this is basically a quad cores, essentially, right? And the GPU is kind of similar. You've got 8 GPUs working, and they're small, kind of low-power GPUs, but you have 8 of them. And this right here is the Apple M1 built-in GPU. It's not broken out into all 8 or whatever, but it's showing, how much is being used on the system as you're working. And these windows can kind of float on top. So you'll see just having Resolve open, you can see how much it's using on the system. These first little spikes were opening Activity Monitor and moving windows around, things like that. But now you can kind of see a baseline now that I haven't touched anything for a minute. I don't have OBS. I'm not live streaming from the computer that you're looking at. I've duplicated that monitor and run it into a second computer. The second computer is the one doing all the live streaming. So really the only thing running on this computer right now is Resolve. And you see the baseline, it's using about 20% or less of the GPU. So if I go back over to Resolve, so I'm in Resolve now, and if I hit play, watch what happens to the cores, particularly to the graphics processor as it's trying to calculate what every single frame looks like. Look at it. It peaked out at the top, right? So that's why, and look at the efficiency and the performance cores. They're not having any trouble playing a frame. That's not any big workout for them. But look at the GPU. It's pinging the top of it's that's the bottleneck, is the GPU speed here. And RAM could also enter into it, I guess. I don't know how the RAM interacts with the GPU. I think I've got 16 gig of RAM on this M1 MacBook Air. But you can clearly see the GPUs are working at 100%, and it's only doing, 3 to 4 frames per second. The actual CPUs are barely doing anything. And when I stop it, it'll drop back down to that baseline again. And so there's a little bit of lag in the display here, but you'll see here in just a second, it'll drop back down. You see it already. It's falling there in the corner. I'm not sure at what resolution, you're able to see. But there it is down back at the baseline once again. So obviously Activity Monitor is using a little bit of resources just by being open, but ultimately the GPU is just doing as much as it can, just playing through, So the original footage, the question is what codec is the footage. So the original footage that you're looking at here was shot with a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, and we used their B-RAW format, so that it was basically in RAW. Even the B-RAW format has some compression settings on it, so I think we shot like 1:8 or something, so it was pretty heavily compressed. In fact, I think when I made ProRes files so that I could edit in Final Cut, I think the ProRes HQ files were actually bigger than the B-RAW files. So the B-raw files are pretty efficient. They're pretty nice. You still have raw information in the file, but they're able to do some kind of compression so that they can be larger or smaller depending on the compression ratio that you have. I'm glad that we used the compression ratio that we did, because otherwise I wouldn't have the hard drive space, to store everything. So the color management here that I have set up is go to color management, and I'm using ACES because that's sort of an industry standard thing, and so that's what I've decided to use. So I'm using ACES CCT. I'm using the most recent version of ACES, which is ACES 1.3, and I've set it to no input transform because it will automatically detect the black magic stuff, and then anything else I just have to manually set to what it is. My output transform is Rec 709. That's my output color space because I've got, like everybody else, I've got a Rec 709 color monitor. And yeah, so anyway, that's what I've got. That's what I'm using. So what it's doing every time it goes to play a frame is it's processing the raw information. It's processing the raw settings that are in the camera raw settings that I have down here. It's processing the group pre-clip color grading that has been done. It's processing the clip color grading that has been done, which is, so in this case, is none. It's processing the group post-clip color grading, which has been done, which is the actual color grade and look. And then it's processing the timeline color grade, which is just a finishing polish on all of my footage. And it's got to do that 24 times a second if it wants to keep up. And as I was just showing, this big spike here in the blue, that is the GPUs topping out trying to play footage. And so that is why when I want to play some footage, the best that I'm getting is 3 to 4 frames. And again, you can't really see that. Let me zoom in again. Right here at the top of this window, right under where it says Fusion, there's a 3, there's a 4, there's a 3, there's a 4. It's playing 3 or 4 frames a second. The red dot lets you know, hey, this is not at full speed. Obviously, it's supposed to be 24 frames a second. But you can see by the blue on this GPU chart, it's just maxing out my GPUs. 8 GPUs in the M1 MacBook Air, but it's just not enough to deal with the 6K raw footage, scaling it down to 4K, doing all this color grading work, adding all of these grain. There's 2 different grain overlays, the negative grain and the print grain. It's a lot to compute at once, and it's just not able to make all those computations 24 times in a second. It can only do it 3 or 4 times in a second. So, I'm seriously contemplating getting a Mac Studio Ultra. The new ones I think are about to come out in October. Already, the one that I was looking at on B&H has dropped by $200. So it does, and I don't need to play it at full speed. If I was playing it at full speed, well, even on bypass modes, and right now it's bypass. This is just the original video footage with nothing being done to it. This is like what it looks like. Basically, the only thing that's being done to it is the camera raw stuff, I think, is being taken into account down here so it can display it in Rec 709. But even at that, it's only playing it 18, 20, 19. I mean, you can hear from the audio, you can see it's still not playing it at 24 frames a second. It's still, you can see it on the blue graph up here, it's still banging out the top of the GPU just trying to play the footage in the window. So it's just limitation of the air. I am doing this on a 4K monitor. If I was doing this just on the built-in display, that would be probably a lot less work that the GPU would be doing, but then I would be working not on a 4K display, not on a 27-inch display, not on a color calibrated display. So these are the trade-offs that you have to make, to get what you want to do. But the reason I have the grain overlays on is because I want to see the final product. And as best as I've tried to make these grain overlays not affect the luminance at all, they still do. So just want to make sure that it's looking. Yeah, absolutely. I use proxies when I was editing. So what the process was, we shot on B-raw. I brought it into Resolve so I could export everything. I did what we call one light. Back in the old film color grading days, they would call it a one light, because you would just sort of set one set of, one look and then just run everything out on that one look. So you kind of pick a look that would be good for everything. So I had a basic film LUT that I dropped on it and just kind of did some basic stuff and spat it out into ProRes files. Took those ProRes HQ. So I took those ProRes files into Final Cut and I made proxies there. And that way I was able to take just a little, like a little portable Seagate, 5 terabyte drive, and I could sit at Starbucks with my laptop and I edit the whole thing just with some earbuds or headphones or whatever. And I was able to edit basically the whole movie wherever I wanted because I had the proxies on that drive. I couldn't take all 14 terabytes of the ProRes files with me, but I could take, all the proxy files were like, I don't know, it was like 1.5 terabytes or something. And so I had plenty of room on that. So I was able to edit that way. And that was fine. That was great. And then out of Final Cut, you export a Final Cut XML and you bring that into Resolve. And when you import that into Resolve, Resolve asks, hey, do you want to reconnect this to your original RAW files? And you say, yes, I want to do that. So it reconnects to your original RAW files. If I was still editing in Resolve, I would make proxies. But for color grading, you can't really use proxies. You got to have the full resolution, and especially with the RAW stuff, you've got to have the original RAW file. Any proxy will bake in, a lot of the RAW choices and stuff that you make. So proxies are fantastic for editing, but you can't use them for color grading. And so, anyway, so these are just the limitations. All it means is I can't play it smoothly in the software. That's not really that big a deal. I can quickly, it doesn't take anything. In fact, I could, I'll do it now just for this one shot. Let's see. I think if I hit X, maybe. No, let's do this. Let's go to. Let's start here, and I'll hit I to set an endpoint. Oh, no, that did work. Okay, and then I'll go here, and I'll go here, and then back up one frame, and I'll hit O to set an out point. So this is basically one shot, and you can't really see it, but there's down here in the timeline view, there's a little gray bar that's like my in and out set. This whole movie is an hour and 45 minutes, so the timeline, is the length of the whole film. So then I can go to quick export and I can export a 264 and I can just hit export, or I can export a ProRes if I want, but 264 is enough for me to just look at things, And I've got a Resolve tests folder. I'll just type in today's date, 2024-09-16, maybe even a space, and 1626, which is the current time here. That way it's just a timestamp of whatever output, and if I want to give it a note, I can just say, bedroom morning test 01, And now it's telling me it's rendering it at 0 to 1 FPS, and I've got about 5 minutes remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Now it's up at 2 FPS. And we see this is not that inconsistent with what I was trying to do a minute ago when I was trying to play it. It's a little slower because it's actually writing a file and doing all the final finishing things that it does. But, here in 2 minutes, I'll have a finished export of this clip, and I'll be able to watch that in real time, no problem. So if there's anything that I need to watch in real time, I can do this. I can export a clip. I can play it. I don't even have to open it in QuickTime. I can just hit spacebar and Finder, and it'll play it, close to full screen. And that way I can just look at the motion or the speed of the grain. Is the grain interacting, in a weird way or anything like that? It would be great if I could watch everything in real time in Resolve without having to do this. Obviously, having to stop and render something out like this, it's kind of a hassle. But I just haven't needed to look at anything like this yet, because I'm just kind of looking at it on a frame-by-frame basis. I can look at the beginning of the shot, the middle of the shot, end of the shot. I can just kind of click through and pick sort of representative, parts of the shot, and make sure that those are looking how I want them to look. So this will be done here in 1 minute and 10 seconds. So while we wait, let's ask ourselves the question, what are we thankful for today? Well, I am thankful that I went to hot yoga this morning and got in a good workout and got in a good sweat and then had a good big breakfast after that. That's why I feel really great right now. I took some supplements earlier, some magnesium and some little vitamin B boost, and still sipping on my coffee from this morning. So that's got me feeling good. A lot of other things to be thankful for. What do you have to be thankful for today? Be interested in hearing about that. Oh, we've got 30 seconds left. This movie is called The Darkness Rolled Over Her. It is an adaptation of a book that I wrote by the same name. You can go to fivecoffeesinabook.com. I'll put that in the chat. FCB. I said I was going to put that in the chat. I might have lied. Can I not type a message? Oh, there we go. Oh, this poor laptop. FCB. There we go. Fivecoffeesinabook.com. Fivecoffeesinabook.com is where you can find out a little more about the film. You can watch the trailer to the film. You can also sign up there to get the ebook of the story for free, so you can go ahead and read the story. Okay, our render is done, so I'm going to go over to Finder. Finder? I hardly know her. Let's just pull a window out here, and we will go, let's see. We're looking for Resolve tests. Exports. No, must be on this drive. Yes. Exports, Resolve test. Here we go. And this is on the same little 5 terabyte Seagate drive that I used. I got all my proxies on. So there's nothing. This is not a super. My B-roll footage is on a 7200 RPM Thunderbolt drive, but this bit I'm about to play you that we just rendered out is just on a USB 3. Seagate crappy drive, Amazon purchase. That's it. So kind of stinks that it takes 3 minutes to output. How many seconds is that clip? 11 seconds. But hey, you got to work with what you got. I got an M1 MacBook Air with 16 gig of RAM, and that's what I got. I'm very much contemplating getting a Mac Studio. I would love a decked out Mac Studio Ultra, but I don't have $8,000 or whatever. But I do have a little room on a credit card. I do not recommend putting things on a credit card. I don't recommend it. Do what I say, not what I do. But they did take $200 off this recently. So, yeah. So I'm really thinking about getting that. It's a Apple Mac Studio Ultra with M2 Max. Here we go. And 64 gig of RAM. So the M2 Max would have 12 cores instead of 8. So the M1 that I have is an M1 with 4 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. I think the M2 Max, let's see if it says down here. I forget how many of each thing it has. Let's look at cores. It says it can play up to 10 streams of 8K ProRes. Oh, we'll see about that. If I can break something, if something can be broken, this is the guy to do it right here. I can figure it out. 12, no. I think I'm gonna have to go to Apple's site. But let's go to Apple's site because I want to know. iPhone 16. Who's getting the iPhone 16? Mine hopefully is coming Friday, Lord willing. I do have it ordered. We'll see if it comes Friday. We're going to the Mac. We're going to the Mac Studio. And a true powerhouse. Tech specs. Let's just jump to that. There we go. Okay, M2 Max. Yeah, so it's 8 performance cores and 4 efficiency cores. What I have learned by looking at this chart up here, from Activity Monitor, is that it is the efficiency cores that actually do most of the work, and the performance cores kind of kick in when they're needed. So if you look at this chart over here, these first 3 are the efficiency cores. These first 4 are the efficiency cores, and these last 4 are the performance cores. It sounds like the performance cores would be like the ones, and then the efficiency ones would be like, oh, if you need them. and they even write it like that on the site where they say 12 cores, 8 performance cores, 4 efficiency cores. But yeah, I think the efficiency ones are the ones that actually do everything, and the performance cores are kind of like turbo boost. So the M2 Max chip still only has 4 efficiency cores, but it has 8 performance cores. But as you can see, I'm not topping out even when I go back to Resolve and try to play footage in real time. I'm not topping out my CPUs at all. CPUs is not the issue. It's the GPUs. The GPUs are just absolutely topped out. You can see that in the blue on the right here, this blue graph. So what I'm interested in is the 30 core GPU as opposed to the 8 core GPU, which I have currently. Or maybe it's 16, but I think it's 8. Let's look. Let's find out. M1 MacBook Air tech specs. There we go. How about here we go, from Apple's site. All right, it's got an 8 core GPU. So I'd be going from 8 cores to 30 on the GPU. That's got to help, right? That's got to be more, right? 8 cores to 30 on the GPU. And then the other big thing would be the RAM. It'd be going from 16 gig of RAM to 64 gig of RAM. And if that doesn't help me process things a lot faster, then, you know, woe is me. I guess I can always send it back. But, man, they took $200 off. I think it's because new ones are about to come out in October. Do I wait and see if it's even more off, in October? But I think this would have enough that I could really start cranking stuff out. The bottom line is this M1, I'm doing okay. It's doing all right now. Let me go back to my activity monitor and quit that. Get that out of the way. And I think it's now a time to take a little break. So I'm going to refill my water, maybe get a little nosh, and come back. I will need to leave in about 45 minutes. But let's see if we can get 45 minutes more worth of work done. So we'll take just a little intermission, and then I'll be back in just a few. So thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Sit tight. Be back in about 5. Hello, darling. Nice to see you. Let's get back to some color grading. Got just a few minutes left before I got to go. All right. Got our lighting back the way we need it. Got our screen up there. So what are we going to do next? Well, I think we just bump right on along with color balancing. Okay, now I've done this scene like multiple times, but I did it before I had all the color management, everything sort of set up the way that I wanted. So basically we need to redo it, I think. So let's look at the group pre-clip. Interesting. What else going on here? Primary balance, primary offset, log grade, HDR. Well, no, that's right. Post clip. Interesting. What has that got going on? Luma versus SAT and HDR. So not much. Thinking might be time to just. Oh, and I've got these windows on her face here. What is this clip exposure? Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff here. Let's see what all this is doing. It's doing a lot. I like some of it. I don't like some of the rest of it. What is this stuff doing here? It's power window around her face, which probably is visible as it moves around. So we probably want to get rid of that. I like the warm look, but maybe not quite that warm. Great. So the question is, do I start all over with this scene? Is that what I do? Is that what I do? Well, yeah, I think so. Let's just tweak it. So we'll go to the timeline. We'll turn off the Kodak film wet, which obviously is doing a lot. We'll turn off the sharpening. We'll turn off the halation. We'll also turn off the film print grain overlay there. We'll go to our group post clip. We will disable the one node here. In fact, well, yeah, just leave it for now. Let's find out what it's doing. So apparently there's like a hue versus sat. Let me get rid of the scopes for a second. There's a hue versus sat. Now, what is it? Luma versus sat? Luma versus sat curve and HDR. Luma versus sat. Oh, I see now. I brought the top down just a little so that the top is not quite so saturated. I don't know if that really did much of anything. And it's so subtle. Anyway, most of the work is done in the HDR, which I'm guessing is probably the color temperature. No. Looks like I did a little bit on the saturation and the shadow of, yeah, a little saturation work, a little exposure work. But just in the shadow. Just in the shadow and light range. It's very little done here. I mean, you know, disable it and re-enable it, and you see there's a little bit of change, but it's so subtle. So if I lose it, it's fine, because I'm about to readjust all this stuff anyway. So I'm going to go to my post here, and I'm going to append node graph. I still have my disabled node selected. I'm just going to delete it. And so now I'm going to clean this up. And I'll select everything and move it up so that when the scopes are up, still can see it. I'm going to go to my group pre-clip, and I don't want to get rid of what I've done, but I do want it to match my other node graph. So I'm going to use this to display the node graph, and I'll see that I've got 4 nodes here, whereas here I only have 2. And so basically I need to put 2 more nodes in between here. So I'm just going to add node, and then I can drop these over here and drop this over here. And I can actually reset this node and reset this one to now they're just empty nodes, but they have the title on there. That's mainly what I was after. That's pretty good. So I can close that. So now this looks correct. I'm going to go to my clip area, and this is actually right. So let me turn all this off so that we can rebalance. Okay. Group pre-clip. All right, like I said, I've already done this a number of times. All right, so that should be my bypass. All right, okay, my bypass and that. Oh, because of the green here. Okay, so bypass footage. Why does the bypass footage look exactly the same? What else? What else is going on? Something here, maybe. These all look like empty nodes. Oh, I've got this stuff going here. I thought I had that turned off already. Okay, it's off now. So now then, bypass. Yes, okay. So I know I have everything turned off when bypass looks the same as not bypassed. All right, so now we're going to start with this first node, which is, it's called group balance, but we're going to call it balance Luma. Okay. And I've already done some work on it, and I don't know that I want to get rid of it. The way I will know is by looking at my waveforms. So let me select everything and move it up. Well, let's do this. Clean up node graph. There we go. All right, now select everything, move it up, deselect everything. So I'm just operating with that. Okay. And pop out my scopes. Here's my scopes. The scopes just really are not hardly showing anything. Okay, so I want to look at my there we go, so I can kind of see some stuff there. All right, I'm affecting just Luma at this point. So I'm going to bring my lift down so we got some blacks. I mean, I'm like spinning my lift. Oh, I'm not in the lift window, which would be why that's not happening. Okay. Go to my primaries. There we go. Okay. So I want to pull my lift down to get it onto the... Whoa, that's too far. I just want it kissing the bottom down there. That's pretty good. I want my gain to just kiss the top line. Something like that. And then get my gamma where it's supposed to be. Which is like somewhere up here. I'm going to reset my contrast. So everything else good on this. Highlights and shadows. You know what? Let's just reset the whole grade. We'll just do it all over. All right. So bring my lift. Okay. Looking at this reset node, the first thing that I can see is that the lift is so far above the bottom, my exposure control and my raw settings must be incorrect. Like it just must be. So you know, one thing I can do is set a lower ISO. I don't really like that. Wait, what just happened? Reset the node. Okay, 400 is good. The other thing would be to change the exposure to like -2, which is going to do basically the same thing. It's just crunching everything down there at the bottom. It's very strange. Very, very strange. Perhaps this was just shot poorly. So I just did it to -4 just to kind of see what it looks like. And even at -4, the lift is still, like the bottom end is still not quite laying on the bottom. So I think some of this is just the way the contrast is lowered with the neutral density filter that I used on set. I think. So let's go. I'm not done with that. Hang on. So let's set it at -1.33. And it's too dark and kind of oversaturated, but it's getting everything spread out a little better. And I'm just going to need to make sure that I'm going to have to see if I can get this whole scene kind of in the window here. Just need to make sure that all these clips are using those same settings. Basically all the scenes when Mrs. Hittlemeier. Actually, let's see. Hang on. So what shot are we on? This shot? Okay. Let's look at the reverse shot of Gwen, or one of the reverse shots of Gwen. So I've got it at 6,000 color temp. What if we were to make that like 5,000? How about 5,600, since that's what sunlight is? I don't know. I like the 6,000. I like it a little warmer. Plus the shadow is going to be bluer, you know. So all right, so we'll do 6,000. So I'll go to the next. And if we do her at -1.33 as well, and of course she doesn't have. Let's turn all of her stuff off too. Yeah, so I've got all this stuff going. Disable all that. All right, so yeah. Perfecto. All right, that feels too low, right? So she's going to have to definitely be something else. So -0.67. Well, now we're just losing detail on her face, so all right. I'm going to leave it at -1.33, which is what we're doing. It's basically everything in this whole scene. So I'm just going to hit Shift, click here, and then I'll probably have individual shots that don't match with this, but we'll deal with those. And I'll hit Use Settings. Okay, now we'll look at some of the individual shots, such as this last one, which begins a lot of dark shadows here, but as we go later in the shot, pretty bright. Yeah, actually, that's not bad. That's fine. We've got, And a lot of dark stuff to contend with here. This shot's pretty dark, but you see the part that has a white hotspot is pretty up near the top of the. Oh, maybe you can't see the scopes. It's pretty up near the top of the scopes, so it's kind of as expected. This shot might be a little different because it was shot elsewhere, but actually looks pretty good. It's one of my favorite shots of her. I love it. Okay, so let's look at one of these representative shots here, like this one here. Why is this one? Oh, because all these others already have clip stuff on them. Because I've already gone through and graded this once before. I'm doing it now with the correct color management. I'm redoing this set, and I'm gonna have to leave here in about 15 minutes. Whew. Okay, so we're gonna pull the bottom down. So see if we can get some blacks. We're gonna pull the gamma back up because the bottom is pulling us down too far. I want to keep the mid up, but I really want to get some black. There we go. We got some stuff kissing the bottom now. And I just keep bringing the gamma up. Keep bringing the bottom down. And the gamma I'm using, I'm looking at her skin. I want the skin to be, sort of where I want it to be. I'll bring... The gain is actually pretty good. I'll actually bring the gain up just a smidge. Bring the lift down again. Alright, now this is starting to look like something. Let me look at my primaries here so I can just kind of see what we're looking at. Go back to my main curve so I can see my histograms down there. Yep. And yeah, it's kind of a mess, but it's not bad. I'm getting some blacks, although I'm getting some like tearing right here where it's crunching. So let me pull that up off the bottom. Okay, alright. So we don't want it tearing. Bring my gamma back down a little. Bring my gain back down a little. And the gain is just barely kissing the lines. The gain is actually good. I'm not going to touch the gain. Okay, it's getting us kind of somewhere there. Alright, now we got balanced color. This is where we got a big mess going on in the color. So it should be, most of this stuff like this white back here is not white. It should be mostly blue. You can see in the scopes the blue is offset. And it would be because it's in the shadow. Once again, we're dealing with stuff where I don't have a white, a gray, a black in neutral light. I either have bluish sunlight, which I want to be a little bluish, or I don't have stuff that's neutral in color. I mean, her hair is a little blondish. But so I'm just going to kind of have to do this by eye. I'm using the scopes as a guide, but I've got way too much red in the bottom end, in part because I was using that ND filter, so I want to take the effects of that ND filter out just a little bit. So I'm going to, on my lift, I'm going to take out some red. Make sure I'm on my color balance node. I'm going to take out some red by going down towards cyan. And I can see everything sort of going towards cyan on the color balance, which is pretty good. I'm going to take a little bit of red out of the mids. Not quite as much. Yeah. And so I can disable that node and re-enable it and be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's like, that's something that I don't hate. All right, again, we can look at other shots. The problem is these other shots, I haven't turned off the clip grade on these other shots yet. I think I'm going to use them. So let me make sure the clip grade is off on this one that I'm looking at currently. Yeah, everything's off. Okay. So now we're going to turn on our contrast node. I feel like this is too contrasty. I want to make sure my pivot is at 0.414. Great. And actually, just make sure it's that on all these nodes. This is the one it really needs to be on, which is the... Okay. The contrast node. All right. So my contrast is zeroed out. But let's play with it. Let's bring it down. Ah. It's doing something to the image that I like. Yeah. That's like really reduced on the contrast. Now let's go ahead and go to the next node, which is the Cine Sat. This should be an HSV color space, and it is, and it should have channels 1 and 3 turned off, and it does. So we're only on channel 2 here, and we're just doing things on a lift gamma gain basis here. And I'm just going to disable and re-enable. It looks like it's adding a bunch of contrast. Let's just reset this node. And let's ask ourselves, contrast, I mean not contrast, but saturation. What do we want? I think I want just a little more saturation in the middle. Oh, dadgummit. I'm going to undo. Okay, and let's see if this is an HSV node again. It is. Okay, I'm not going to reset the node. I'm going to reset the lift gamma gain. That's what I need to do. Okay, so I want to just up the gain a little bit so I can get a little more saturation in the skin tones, but like not too much, just a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit in the lift. And we'll turn down the top just a little. All right, so this is the default saturation. This is with my node. Just putting a little color in her skin, taking a little color out of the bottom end, or yeah, actually maybe adding a little color to the bottom end. Yeah, so maybe let's take a little color out of the bottom end. Let's add a little bit back in the top. This is really just a very subtle change, but I like it. Oh, actually no, I like it better off. So that's not good. Had my lift turned down too far, I think. So it's taking just a little bit out of the top, I think. Adding just a little bit into her skin tones. I don't want to do too much. Just a little bit of saturation in the skin tone. A little bit of density. Yeah, add back just a little on the bottom end there. Okay. It's interesting that sort of changing the values, but I guess that's the point of doing it this way. It's a cinematic saturation kind of deal. Okay. I don't hate that. I think that looks decent. So let's turn now the grain on. Let's see how it looks on this shot of Gwen. She's going to need a lot of stuff done to her at a clip level, but let's go to the group post clip. Turn these things on. Alright, let's turn these on one at a time, and let's deal first with exposure temp. Oh, and to do these properly, we have to have our timeline stuff turned back on. So let's turn those on. In our timeline grain. Alright, back in the group post clip. Okay, so this is exposure and color temperature. Overall, the exposure needs to come up. Everything is kind of milked out in the middle, which is super frustrating. But so I'm going to take the global exposure up Then I'm going to turn on this contrast node. And I'm going to up the contrast. We'll go back to our primary wheels. Get the pivot set at 414. I'm going to up the contrast even more than it is now. Going to spread all that information out in the middle there. Okay. And now I'm going to go to the Cine Sat node because we got a lot of sat stuff going on here. And this says no color correction, but it's got the color space and the channel stuff set up, so we're ready to do some saturation work because I feel like I've got too much saturation going on now. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit on the bottom end, turn it down just a little bit in the middle, turn it down just a hair at the gain. Okay. So there's our saturation. There's the saturation off. I'm going to go back to our exposure temperature here, and I'm going to take the. I'm going to see what color temperature issues. Oh, we got to. I'm going to reset the color temperature here. Okay. And this was 300. Is that more orange? It's kind of hard to tell. Not sure what it's coloring. In fact, it might be better if it was a little bluer, like negative 300. If we do negative 800. Ah, that's starting to look pretty good. Go all the way back to my camera raw settings and see what happens if I put this at 5600. Yeah, I hate that. Leave that at 6000. So let's go back to this HDR. What if we do negative 1000 on the HDR color temperature? That looks pretty good. Our whites in the background are pretty blue. Okay. Let's see what she looks like. This is not looking bad, but there's just this so contrasty through here, but I'm just going to have to fix that on her clip by clip basis, I think. But this is looking pretty good. Okay, now why? Why does this shot look so different? Oh, because I have clip stuff turned on. I keep forgetting about all that. Okay. But like that just looks better. It's so irritating that looks better. What is going on at the clip level that looks better? Do I have sharpening or something going on? It's got to be what it is. What do I have going on here? Saturation, power windows, tracking, sat hue, luma mix, primary balance, key, custom curves, HDR, exposure. That does look really good. And it's so sharp. That's the thing for me is like, why is it so sharp? So let's go back to this. And let's turn on part of it is she's moving. Node. Yeah, nothing's going on there. So let's turn this window back on. Got a window on her there. Clip exposure. Clip contrast. Clip balance. Ah, there's where that color stuff was coming in. I think that's probably a little too much of that going on, but clip Cinesat, and then a little bit of adjustment on the grading. So now let's go back and look at the beginning. Okay. That's definitely sharper looking, because there obviously is some contrast somewhere We're getting some contrast out of something. Not sure where. So the question is, do I want to redo any of this? Now my bottom end is a little too blue, and I'm not sure. Oh, maybe it's this. Maybe it's this that's doing it. What all have I got going on here? Primary balance and a key. So let's look at our primaries. And I just darkened it basically. But what happens if I warm it up a little? That may have been all I needed for that problem. In fact it's too much. Let's do it like 140. And her face, I think all these are going to have to be retract and shrunken to something like this. So, original camera shot, current grade. Oh, man. I'm just going to need to start all over this stuff. It's bad when you like the original camera shot better. Just the color of that looks way better than whatever's going on here. So, I basically just need to reset all these nodes. Let me turn all these off. Yeah, I've killed my separation there somehow. Lost a bunch of saturation. Yikes. I think I just need to reset this scene and come back. Just redo it all from scratch. Which is no problem. It's no problem to do that. I wonder if I can reset the grades all at once by just selecting everything as such and right clicking and like reset grades. I can apply grades. I can shot match to clips. I can delete all versions. I can shift down reset, which will reset the grade for the selected clip, I think. Not too sure what to do, boys and girls. Yep. Well, it's time for me to leave anyway, so I'll have to figure that out on the flippity flip. But we're learning. That's the key. I'm not a pro. I'm not a Davinci Resolve pro. I am learning as I'm using it. You're here watching me learn. Hopefully you're learning something by watching me learn. The film is called The Darkness Rolled Over Her, and I'm going to attempt to play the trailer for you. It has not been playing very smoothly, so I don't know what to tell you. It's my other computer is even worse off than my main computer, and my other computer is the one that I'm using to do OBS. But oh my goodness, all these notifications are coming through. So I'm going to play the trailer for you on the way out. Hopefully you'll be able to watch at least most of it. You can always go to fivecoffeesinabook.com. You can get the ebook for free. You can watch the trailer there. There's a discussion guide about the book, so you can read the book and talk about it with a friend. That's the whole idea behind 5 Coffees in a Book, so that you would sit down with a friend over coffee 5 times, talk about the book, talk about your lives together, make a friend for life. You can go to parabolos.com. Put that in the chat. You can go to parabolos.com and you can find information about my films. You can find information about my books. You can find my podcast. You can find audiobooks. You get all sorts of things there. So be sure and check that out. You can also subscribe to my Substack. If you wanted to financially contribute to what we're doing so that one day I can get a better computer, then you feel free to subscribe on Substack. Do not feel obligated to, but you're welcome to. So until next time, thanks for watching. Godspeed, and keep moving.
I want to die. And when you're with Mr. Roy,
Hello again.
hi.
Roy Miller. Nice to make your acquaintance, Gwen Donnelly. Fish, they like facing upstream. Fish is always facing upstream. Look